assessment that Ramana Maharshi is actually the, are you making out with that?
That's good.
Okay. He's actually the creme de la creme. He is, in my opinion, the most dedicated, the most integrity of all the teachers. He's not self-promoting. Everybody has an ego on it. And so when you go to a teacher, there's a lot of stuff in play. And actually, I came to a teacher when I was 21. And he was basically teaching Kriya Yoga, which is the yoga to control your mind. It's not a breathing yoga, it's 4 techniques of meditation. And he quoted biblical passages, like Jesus saying, if thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. And he said that was the light, the third eye. That there was actually a pineal gland, which was not receptive to outside light, but only to the light of God. And also they quoted when Jesus met the woman at the well, and they had to go around. She said, "I have no husband," and he said, "No, he's got 7." And he said to her, "If you drink of this water," he said, "I can give you such a water that you will never thirst," because she was at the well trying to get some water. And that was the nectar technique. There's an inner fluid. Actually, I've never tasted it, although they say it's like an ambrosia and it's very intoxicating. I have smelled it, and it's like gardenias to me, which I love. And then another technique he taught was the music, which is the music of the spheres. And if you close off your senses to the outside world, you have this inward stuff going on, because you are energy. And if you can be taught how to tune out the world and tune in yourself. And I remember one time I actually heard a choir from the other side, and it was pretty amazing. I never heard them since. It was like a one-time shot. So I had a lot of experiences. The most revered of all the techniques, the 4th technique, was the word, the word of God, which is not a word you can utter, but it's an experience to have. But I got into that for a long time. I enjoyed it, and then I started questioning him. And it couldn't hold up under questioning. It's one of those things that, you don't question it. Because when you start questioning it, you gotta find holes in it. It's just the nature, it's like the personality is false. I've been reading the Michael material, and they talk about a false personality, which is something that you were referring to, how in this world, there's just a lot of lies, In fact, I think your brain translates information. So you're seeing things, and I think they come in upside down or something. Your brain turns them. So whatever you belief you happen to have is going to color tremendously what your experience is. And if you're shut down emotionally, you're only going to let in certain emotions. So it's everything is is very relative. The Hindus refer to this world as Maya, illusion, and the reality is not of this world. So Maharaji was teaching me more how to. His thing was to be a lotus, that is in the mug, is in the world, but its roots, are I guess, not in it. It's like floating in it, but it's beautiful. It's not of it. I mean, you know, so did that for a long time. But, you know, it's like, for me, there were certain questions that were not answered. It's like I could see, like I got into school, you know, in high school, back in the late 60s and 1970, the Kent State killings happened, the war in Vietnam was raging, and I was reading, you know, I was hearing about things like Summerhill, you know, about how the educational system just plugs you into society, you know, and we were talking about things like mice, the military-industrial complex establishment, you know, which were warned about by this outgoing president, Eisenhower, who spoke that there are powers behind the scenes that are really very vested in turning you into a slave. And so I didn't really want to fit into all of that. It was very political. And I know when Christ was here, and this I brought because it's Palm Sunday, and you know, I'm not too up on religion, but I understand that's when he got busted as a common thief. And this is a picture that was taken of the mantle in Turin. And then this guy Babaji, who's another Indian mystic, passed his hands over the picture and his eyes came up. Because obviously he wouldn't have been in the mantle. And I forgot what I got to, but basically when he was here, the people that were around him were a bunch of, what was the word?
Philistines?
No, the people that were with him, like Judas. And, yes, there was a word for them. They were revolutionaries. You know, they wanted to topple the Romans. They wanted them out, and they thought he was the king. And, you know, he could not fail, and that's why Judas turned him in, because he thought when the Romans would come at him, they would just be repelled by this great force, and the kingdom would be at hand. But the kingdom is not an earthly thing. You know, the kingdom happens inside. All of this really is illusory. In fact, if you read the Kybalion, which is Hermetic philosophy, that question of, you know, where the creation comes from, he says that it's created by your mind. That's why there's no trace of anything, because it's actually your mind that creates all of creation. So the mind is a very vast tool, but I think it's a bit like a computer. You know, like the movie 2001, HAL, he kind of goes south. You didn't see that? HAL was a computer, right? And he turns on the people that were out in space, and it becomes a real problem. And I think that's what's going on really, you know, in this creation, at least certainly in this planet, is that yes, you know, the mind created it, but things are really out of whack. So there's basically everything that you can see, touch, smell, hear, you know, is fake, is not real, you know. And that's proven by the fact that when you die, it disappears. You know, I know that question, you know, who am I? Where do I come from? And where am I going? To me, that was very important, you know, because it's like we're here, we give this place a lot of energy, you know, 60, 70, 80 years, however long, you know, even if it's 20 years, there's a lot of emotional investment that we put into it. And actually, Maraji, my first teacher, said, you know, there's 2 dates on a gravestone. There's your birth date, and there's your death date. And in between those two, there's a dash. And that dash is your life. You know? And I know when I was young, I couldn't wait to get old. And I was very bored because time seemed to pass so slowly. But now that I'm old, I know that death is just around the corner. You know? And that when that time comes, there's a reckoning because time has run out at that point. So that everything that I'm doing in this moment is extremely important. And that's why I wanted to give this talk. So essentially, what I came to is advaita. And I wanted to ask you a question. If you know, when I was, I didn't bring the blackboard, but I wanted to draw this line, which has like, you know how they have the zero in the middle, and then they have the positive on one side, and then negative on the other, and ask you, you know, what powers are represented in that line. So anybody can answer the question. You know, you've got a line, right? It's your normal. What was that used for? I remember seeing it in school. It was the zero, and then there's up to 5 positives on the right.
It's a Likert scale.
A what?
Likert scale?
A what scale?
It's called the Likert scale.
Likert scale. So in the Likert scale, what would you say, anybody here, what powers are at play? There's a positive, a negative, there's a zero in the middle. So which 2 powers would you say are at play?
Good and evil.
Good and evil, so the positive is like good, the negative is evil. Would you say that? Yeah.
Hopefully, yes.
All right, anybody else?
That's what I would say, all of them.
Armand?
Life itself. Oh, excuse me.
Okay.
I was going to say all of them.
All of?
All of everything is at play.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's not at play, it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Armand, what would you say?
Well, the positive and negative is the 2 ends to compare with when you're living your life. There's a
Okay.
good and there's a bad, morally, in your opinion, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
And as you move between the negative and the positive, you are experiencing life itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yin
Like-
yang,
Go ahead.
yin yang, and the middle being the stasis.
Okay.
The alpha and the omega.
All right. Anybody else? No. The way I see it is like this. The positive and the negative are one and the same. They're actually the same thing. It's the same power. It's just 2 faces of the same thing. The zero is the only other variable in there. It's like the hurricane has an eye. They say there's an eye in the hurricane. And around the hurricane, at first there's like the further away stuff that's a little disturbing, a little bit of rain, you know, and then it gets worse. But when you actually passes through that, there's a point where there's a stillness in the middle. And that's the eye of the hurricane. That point is the stasis that you were talking about.
0 point.
The 0 point, yeah. And does anybody know anything about homeopathy? How homeopathic medicine is made? Anybody?
Yeah. Like one molecule in a medium,
Mm-hmm.
so that the person becomes desensitized to it, their body becomes desensitized to that particular. I think of veronica, that's about the only one.
But how is the medicine itself made? Do you know how it's made?
Well, I think I heard something strange about how whatever your problem is, they take what the opposite of it is, and
Mm-hmm.
it was bizarre when I
Mhm.
thought I heard how it was done.
Okay.
They just take a small part of the thing that they want to cure, that they put that in there, and it's just like a very, very minuscule
Right.
drop of it.
Right.
You know, and that will, help the immunity for it.
The philosophy being like cures like.
Mm-hmm. That's
Oh,
correct.
And there was a there's an herbalist that would take it,
Mhm.
and he'd just take the once a year, he would just go in and just rub the poison ivy on him.
Uh-huh.
He says, don't try this at home type of thing.
Mhm.
We haven't started it, you know.
Mhm.
But he would show us that he could just rub it all over himself and it would be fine. So he said the Native Americans did that.
Right. The concept is cure, to cure that like cures like. This actually, I think Hippocrates came up with it. There was allopathy and homeopathy. And allopathy is you try to prevent the effect, but with homeopathy you try to mimic it. But the way that the remedy is made, it's like somebody said, you take a little bit of it, the mother tincture, and then you start diluting it. And the more you dilute it, the more potentized that it is. So much so that Hahnemann, at the very end of his life, in his, the crown of his work, the sixth organ, he said that the most effective is a 50,000th dilution. So what happens is that after you dilute it 200 times, there's no longer a trace. There's no longer a molecular trace. It's just memory. It's what you call the energetic realm. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm trying to make a point, which is that there where the physical realm ends is where the energetic realm begins. It's a given. It's just the way it is. I know people here are aware of that. People come here because they're aware that there's spirit, that there are unseen things that can guide them in their lives. Right? Now, if you look at an atom, I know that an atom, small as it is, it has subatomic particles. There's like the proton and the neutron and the photon and all of this stuff, right, in an atom. But do you know which has the most mass of all of these? It's the space.
Space is the defect.
The biggest thing in there is the space,
Which is like 99.9% or something.
which is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Water is in our body. And they, like the latest discoveries are that creation comes from waves of information, and that stars actually come out of black holes. They're going to go back into it, but that's where all the energy is coming out of, is these black holes. So this whole pretense that we have about matter, about presence, about personality, where we think of God as having a personality, it's really just a projection of our own mishigas. It's just what we've learned, But there's something beyond that. And this man, Ramana Maharshi, what happened to him is that he was seduced by the truth. It was like he was beckoned by it. He had a calling. And as soon as he heard the name of his mountain, Arunachala, he just took off. I thought he was 14, but I think he was 16 actually. So he stole the money that, some of it that he had been given for his studies, and he took off. And he went through all kinds of hardship. And he abandoned the care of his body. He just wanted to sit in that bliss. He had no earthly ambition, whatever. He didn't even want to move from that mountain. People would go to him. He would appear maybe to people, but he would just, hang out there. And he did run into difficulty, though, which was as he would get absorbed into this bliss, even foregoing his body, and he really was abusing his body because he wasn't feeding himself and so forth, is that the mind would come in, and he realized that basically it had all of our, because we're constantly bombarded by mind. You know, it's like, for like the last 6 weeks, I've been excited about giving this talk. I've been giving this talk and, you know, but like as of yesterday and today, I was like frightened at the end, you know, and that's just my mind, you know, that's just this personality, how it's, you know, it responds to input, because we're constantly being pulsed by our mind, so much so that we identify with it. We identify with our story and our history, with our body. You know? We think we are our body and our mind. And this is the lie that we live. So he actually, you know, one of the things he said is, you know, if everything is temporary, why waste your life pursuing it? Why not pursue the one thing that actually is, you know, never ending, that is actually permanent, it's actually true. So what happened to me after I studied with Maharaji is that I ran into Prasad. And Prasad had a following in Encinitas at the time, it was around 2000. And, you know, I really found fault in him. Like, my critical mind immediately wanted to confront him. And luckily, he invited me to sit next to him. He would always keep a chair open like this. I think Gangaji does the same thing. Mm-hmm. You know, they're of the Papaji lineage. And so I got up there trying to prove him wrong. I had an agenda, but he just slowed me down enough to get me into self-inquiry. And when he got me into self-inquiry, I experienced what I would experience in meditation, only that it was in front of all of you. And I wasn't meditating, and then I knew there was something. And when I had that experience, I realized that what he was teaching was true, and I no longer had an agenda, you know, against him. So I would like to invite anybody that is curious, that wants to taste themselves, to come and sit.
I would love to.
Please do.
I have sat with Gangaji.
Uh-huh. So how was that for you?
She was kind of cross with me because I was feeling so good. I just drifted off around the She made me pay attention to her. So.
Well, I'm not crossing you. I'm delighted.
Oh yes.
That you took the plunge like no hesitation.
Well, there was a rise of energy from you that I enjoyed when we had our earlier interaction. So it can only be positive.
So who enjoyed that? So the way we'll do this exercise is I'll suggest a question,
Okay.
and you will repeat the question out loud to yourself, and then you will just do like what is it when you don't cut yourself off, or you know like it's just a free flow. You'll just say, you know, whatever comes in the moment. And all of us are going to be tracking together, because it's consciousness. It's like, she is the valiant in the group, but we're all going to benefit from her journey, because we're really one anyway. So, so repeat to me what you said, how you enjoyed, what was it that you...
With Gangaji?
Yeah.
I sat beside her, and I know the energy, the transmission, you know, and so I thought, oh, this is really nice. I looked at her, and she kind of made me pay attention to what she was saying.
Okay, but you said, but you enjoyed.
It's a certain change in energy. I've experienced it with people that have this ability. I believe that they have this gift. So therefore, I'm willing to sit here and get it, because it's a very nice feeling.
Okay, so you said, I believe that they have this gift. Okay, so we'll work with that.
Okay.
And so I'm going to suggest that you ask yourself the question, who is this I that said I believe? So you will say to yourself out loud. Mm-hmm. And what, give me a sec. So you say, who is this I that said, I believe. And then you're going to wait and see what comes up, and you're going to tell us. So go ahead and ask.
Who is this I that I believe?
That said, I believe.
That said I believe. Who is this I that said I believe? It's a change of energy. It's feelings all around as well as inside. And it's a lightness of the mind that's kind of like a child that's caught with something, and it's magical in that moment.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, was there more?
No,
No, okay.
she's nodding her head, and I said, she knows what I mean.
Okay. So it's this child. Okay, so the question would be,
What is this child believe?
who is this child? You'll ask it out loud. And listen.
Who is this child? It's simply an increase of this energy. Because I focus on the child, it's a physical thing, and it's the feeling and the energy from it, the innocence, the upliftment, and the ability to create from this effulgence. The word effulgence comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the word effulgence comes to mind. Whose mind? The question is, whose mind does the word effulgence come to? Could you repeat that question?
Whose mind does the word effulgence come to? You know, I get crazy with this shit. I get crazy with it because it's not ultimately the mind that I think that goes to the grocery store or sits in a chair or interacts with other people. It's like crazy making stuff
Mm-hmm.
because it's less perceptible. It's like a pure feeling, and that you can't. You can write all beautiful things about it. It's heaven, it's joy, it's peace, it's God, and be very poetic. And it's still, and it frustrates me when people say, Gandhi said, I can point you towards it, but I can't do it for you. And you eventually end up not being able to say what it is, only experience it. So I would say the effulgence is the experience. And we can all feel that because I can feel it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's three I's here. One is I get crazy with this shit. The other one is I would say, and the third one was I can feel it. So I guess my question would be, if you could repeat it, who is this I?
Who is this I? There's a quote from David Hawkins that when we first sat down was in my head, so I have to say it.
Mm-hmm.
The same eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me.
Okay, so that's his quote. He's saying they're one and the same.
Right.
Okay, so my question would be, forget this guy. You said you said I can feel it. Okay, this I that can feel it. Who is this I that said I can feel it? That's a question. Who is this I that said I can feel it? Could you repeat the question?
Who is this I that I can feel it?
No, who is this I that said I can feel it?
Who is this I that said I can feel it? I'm stymied.
I'm what?
Stymied. I mean, I'm
I'm
stopped.
stymied.
I don't know
Okay,
where else to go from here.
Okay,
Who
so
is this I that doesn't know where to go from here?
who is this I that said
I'm learning this game, right?
Who is this I that said I am stymied? The question is, who is this I that said I am stymied?
Who is this I that says I am stymied? The silent
So I'm picking up this lovely energy from her. There's a lot of things going on. You know, it's like when you're a spiritual student, you don't want to miss. You don't want to put your foot in your mouth. You want to come across spiritual and sounding right. And there's a tremendous amount of. It's almost like getting dressed. You know, before I came here today, Susie saw me. I started going through clothes. You know. It's like crazy, you know, because it's the ego. You know, it's like I'm in front of you, so my ego is very worried about how I come across. And it's the same thing, you know, when you're in the spiritual.
I feel like I have to deliver.
When you're in the spiritual path, you're very aware of how you're looking and if you're, you know, going the right way and stuff. But at the same time, there's this lovely energy that's oozing out of you. Because you're getting closer to yourself.
And like you said earlier, something about it, you had a one-shot experience. I've had lots of one-shot experiences. There hasn't been any consistency to that energy. And truthfully, it's still not there yet.
Right.
It's coming, but it's still
So
not there.
this eye that's in, I've had a lot of shots of this energy.
One-shot experience.
One shot. The question is,
Is this
eye that says, I've had a lot of, yeah.
one-shot experiences.
Yeah. So let's look.
I get a picture of the egg of the cosmos. Who is this eye that said, gets a picture of the egg of the cosmos?
No, it's okay. You don't have to deliver for me.
Oh,
You don't have to deliver for
So
me.
can I have the experience now? Are you done?
Absolutely.
Please.
Absolutely. You are the experience.
I am the experience.
Yeah, there's no way you could not have it. There's just no way. There's no way anyone could ever prove to you that you're not spiritual or that you're not spirit itself. There's just no way. That's all lies.
It's just in the presence of some people, it seems to be enhanced.
We give ourselves permission to experience ourselves with certain people that are, you know, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like certain people we recognize as being on the path or whatever, so we give ourselves permission. And then those are magnificent times, you know. But the truth is, there's not a moment, you know, that passes that we're not it. I mean, they benefit from our thinking that way for sure, but it doesn't do us any good. You see, it's disempowering. It's a lie. There's nothing, you know, there's nothing that can ever prevent us from being what we are.
And it's allowing. And I'm doing this myself with my consciousness
That's right.
in your presence. Now it's there, it's getting there, it's closer. I know it and I love it and I revere it. Wish to be in every single moment.
Well, don't wish to be a, see, the trick with it is, you know, people think Christ was perfect, you know, but you know, when he was in the desert for 40 days, you know, he was going through it. You know what I mean? It's like,
This feels good.
yes, but it doesn't matter what you go through, you never stop being what you are. Do you know what I mean? In other words, even if you feel like shit, and you're angry, and you know whatever else is going on, who you are does not ever change. You may feel like shit in that moment, but trying to not feel like shit is not going to make it go away.
But we still have the positive and the negative. This is extremely positive in what we know as being positive.
At the point being,
Well, if you're angry and you're you're being negative.
well, no, the trick is to divorce yourself from the personality. You know? Don't identify with your personality. Because it's not who you are. It's not who you are. Yeah, it's not who you are. And, you know, we go around in the New Age, we go around trying to improve the personality. It's a great
That's
business.
self-improvement.
Yeah, it's a great business. You know, people want you to do that. That's why they don't like speakers like me. I don't really empower that.
Well, I gave up reading spiritual books per se about 3 months ago because I said I've read it all, it's just my stuff. So this is a very welcome experience.
Well, I thank you for
Thank
your
you.
courage.
Thank you.
We're right on time. Yeah.
If you'd like to continue, we can.
No, I'm need to. Is there any questions? Anybody has any questions? Yes.
So what's the answer? Who is the I that is saying, I want to know who the I is that's asking this question?
Well, you know, the I that wants to know is not the I that is you. You know what I mean? It's like the I that wants to perfect itself, that wants to be God realized, is actually the I that's keeping you from all those things. 'Cause you already are that.
That's great.
Yeah. Anybody else? Question?
Thank you. No, just thank you.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
Where does this teaching come from?
Where does it come from? Well, I would say Ramana Maharshi. You know, it's like he immersed himself in himself and recognized his mind as attempting to pull him out. So for myself, at some point, I realized that my personality was something that didn't exist, attempting to exist at my expense.
That's an excellent description.
Yeah. And that's how ego works. It doesn't really exist, but it works you over your whole life. You know, so long as there's life in your body, it's pulsing you, trying to get a, trying to exist through you. And it's misery. It's misery because it's not what you are. That's the only reason, you know, and because it doesn't exist. Yes.
But doesn't it have a purpose,
What does what have a purpose?
the ego?
That, I don't know. You know, does it have a purpose? You know, I'm sure. I mean, I enjoy it. You know, it's like anything. You know, in moderation. You know, but when it starts running you, it gets crazy. Like creation, it's very beautiful. But when we start trashing the planet, something is off.
I was thinking when you said that, this is a temporary, you know, all of this is just temporary, it's going to go away. I thought, boy, we got to enjoy it.
That's right.
You know, it's
That's it. Yeah.
this is precious.
It is. It is. And the soul is about joy. The soul is about joy. So when you're hooked up with yourself, you are joy. What's your name? Kitty. Well, thanks very much.
Do you do some type of healing?
Do I personally do any? You know, I don't know. I can give you my card and you can check it out.
Yes, he does.
According to your Bible.
Yeah. Well, I have done. Yeah, I have done.
Oh, that's just personality. Don't worry about that. I have a question.
Yes.
What is the name? How do you spell the name of the teachers that you were referring to?
Well, you know, Maharaji was the one that taught me the Kriya Yoga. Maharaji. calls himself Premrawat because he got so much bad rap, that he changed names. And Papa Prasad is a man I studied with here in San Diego, but he stopped teaching. He was very crassly. He taught for 3 years. And that was it. Then he tried teaching again, but he just didn't have the same flow. And then Papaji, I have a video of Papaji. And Papaji is really my main juice. And so is Ramana Maharshi.
There's a nice, if you pull up Ramana, R-A-M-A-N-A, M-A-H-A-R-S-H-I, online, there's a nice video of him walking around, and he can show you some.
No, I don't know that. But I have somewhere to pedal in the break. You're welcome to come and see what I got. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
So, Berman.